You're scrolling through real estate listings at 11:30 at night, phone screen glowing in the dark, and every single house that doesn't look like it's being held together with duct tape and prayers costs $500,000. The kitchen has laminate countertops from 2004. The carpet is beige. There is popcorn ceiling in the master bedroom. And the listing agent has the audacity, the actual audacity, to call it a starter home. Meanwhile, you're sitting there doing mental math on your salary, wondering if you somehow missed a massive promotion while you were sleeping, or if the entire housing market has collectively lost its mind. Here's the thing most people miss. It's not you, it's the math. And the math is absolutely brutal. My name is Dave, and I spend way too much time running numbers on housing, mortgages, and the financial traps hiding inside what society calls the American dream. If you're someone who wants to understand what you can actually afford before a bank or a realtor makes that decision for you, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it saves you from a decision you'd regret for the next 30 years. Today we're going to do something that real estate agents genuinely hate. We're going to calculate who can actually afford a $500,000 house in 2026. Not who the bank will approve, not who can technically sign the papers, who can actually afford it, without turning their entire life into a financial stress simulator that never turns off. Because there is a massive difference between qualifying for a mortgage and being able to sleep at night after you sign that paperwork. And most people don't find out which side of that line they're on until they're already trapped inside the house. Let's start with the uncomfortable reality. In dozens of American markets right now, $500,000 is not luxury. That is the baseline. That is getting you a 1,200 square foot box with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a backyard the size of a parking space. In cities like Denver, Austin, Nashville, or anything within commuting distance of a major metro, $500,000 is what regular people are expected to somehow come up with for regular houses. Nothing special, nothing extraordinary, just a place to live. Now here's the number that changes everything. The median household income in America sits at around $84,000 a year. So we are asking families making 84 grand to afford homes that cost 6 times their annual income. If that ratio sounds completely insane to you, good, you're paying attention. But everywhere you look, someone is telling you it's doable. The mortgage broker says you're approved. Your parents bought a house on way less. Some guy on the internet is flipping houses with no money down and a smile on his face. So what's the problem? The problem is that everyone is lying to you about what the word affordable actually means. And that lie is the entrance to the quicksand pit. You don't feel it pulling until you're already in it. Let's start at the beginning. The down payment, because that is where most people's dreams go to die quietly. The classic rule is 20% down on a $500,000 house. That is $100,000 cash. Let me say that again slowly. $100,000? The median savings account in America holds around $8,000. So you are not a little short. You are $92,000 short. And before you say you'll just save it, let's run that math too. If you're making $84,000 a year and somehow manage to save 10% of your gross income, which almost nobody actually does, you're banking $8,400 per year. At that pace, it takes 12 years to hit the down payment target. And that's assuming home prices stay exactly where they are right now. They won't, okay? So you skip the 20%, you put down 5 or 10% instead, which is what most buyers actually do. You feel good about it. You moved faster. Congratulations. You just unlocked a brand new monthly expense called PMI, private mortgage insurance. This is the fee you pay every single month for the crime of not being rich enough to put 20% down. It runs anywhere from $200 to $400 per month depending on your loan. And here's the beautiful part. It protects the bank, not you. You're paying money every month for insurance that covers the lender in case you default. You're being financially punished for not already being wealthy. And this punishment starts on day 1, before you've even unpacked a single box. Now let's talk about the actual mortgage payment. You put down 10%, that's $50,000 you somehow scraped together. You are left with a $450,000 loan. At current interest rates, sitting in the 6 to 7% range depending on your credit score, your monthly mortgage payment lands around $2,750 to $2,850. That is principal and interest only. That number does not include a single other thing you need to actually live in the house. Not one thing. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because this is where the cost stacking begins, and it does not stop. Let's add property taxes. Depending on your state and county, you are looking at anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 per year. Conservative estimate, $500 a month. Then there's homeowners insurance. It has absolutely skyrocketed over the past few years. Climate change, increased storm frequency, insurance companies getting nervous. Budget $250 to $350 per month, and that number goes up if you're anywhere near a flood zone, fire risk area, or tornado corridor. Then there's maintenance. The thing everyone forgets about until the water heater dies at 6 p.m. on a Friday when every plumber is already booked for the weekend and you're staring at 3 days with no hot water and a quote you haven't gotten yet. The standard rule is 1% of your home's value per year for upkeep. On a $500,000 house, that's $5,000 annually, or about $417 per month. And that is not a worst-case number. That is the baseline assumption before anything unexpected happens. Don't forget the PMI we already talked about. Tack on another $200 to $400. Let's add this up. Mortgage payment, $2,850. Property taxes, $500. Homeowners insurance, $300. Maintenance reserve, $417. PMI, $300. Your total monthly housing cost is now sitting at roughly $4,367. And that's if nothing breaks. No new roof, no HVAC failure, no HOA deciding to repave the neighborhood and send you a surprise $4,000 assessment. And I get it, those numbers feel abstract until you put them against an actual income. So let's do exactly that. Financial advisors will tell you housing should not exceed 28% of your gross monthly income. Banks will approve you if your total debt-to-income ratio stays under 43%. Let's reverse engineer both of those. If you're spending $4,367 per month on housing and that represents 28% of your income, you need to be earning roughly $187,000 per year. If we use the more lenient 43% rule, you still need to pull in around $150,000 annually. And now we arrive at the punchline. Only about 10 to 20% of U.S. households earn $150,000 or more per year, which means 80% of American households cannot comfortably afford a $500,000 house under any reasonable financial standard. This is not an opinion. This is arithmetic being completely brutally honest with you. Alright, real talk. If you saw that number and immediately started doing math on your own income, drop your household income in the comments. No judgment. I'm genuinely curious how many people are sitting right at that edge. But you're thinking, people are still buying these houses, they're everywhere. Who are these people? Some of them have dual incomes in high-paying fields, some of them received family money for the down payment, and some of them, a larger number than anyone wants to admit, are stretching themselves so thin that a single medical emergency or one job loss would collapse their entire financial picture. Let me show you what that actually looks like with real numbers on a real household, trying to make this work. Meet a household we'll call the Millers. Two working professionals. Combined income of $160,000 a year, solidly upper middle class, well above the median. They should be comfortable, right? Let's watch what happens. First, their gross income of $160,000 sounds impressive right up until the IRS, state taxes, FICA, and a modest 401k contribution get their share. After all of that, they are taking home around $9,500 per month. That is their actual money to live on. Now subtract that $4,367 monthly housing cost. They are left with $5,133 for literally everything else in their lives. 2 car payments. Because suburban life requires 2 vehicles. There goes $800. Car insurance for both. $250. Gas, because nothing in the suburbs is walkable. $300. Student loans. They needed those degrees to qualify for the jobs that qualified them for the mortgage. Conservatively, $600. Health insurance premiums that their employers don't fully cover. $400. Groceries for a family eating reasonably healthy, $800 if they're careful. Utilities, electricity, water, gas, internet, 2 phone bills, $450. We are now at $1,533 remaining. And we haven't touched clothing, kids' activities, car repairs, medical copays, or the emotional necessity of occasionally leaving the house to feel like a human being. And savings? Emergency fund? Retirement contributions beyond that modest 401k? Here's the thing most people miss. There's nothing left to save with. One more thing the viewer comments pointed out that I need to add here. If this couple has young kids, daycare alone can run $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Suddenly that $1,500 buffer doesn't just disappear, it goes deeply negative. You are not building wealth. You are running a deficit inside a house you technically own. This household is spending 46% of their take-home pay on housing, not 28, not even 35. Nearly half. And these are not reckless people. They are not buying jet skis. They are not taking European vacations. They are just trying to live in a house that the market has defined as normal. Here's what that life actually feels like day to day. It feels like checking your bank account balance before buying groceries. Not because you want to, but because you have to. It feels like saying no to your kid's school field trip, because that $40 might be needed if the check engine light comes on next week. It feels like lying awake at 2 in the morning running mental math on whether you can handle new tires this month, or whether you push it another 30 days and hope it doesn't rain. It feels like being one unexpected expense away from a genuine crisis every single month. The HVAC goes out in August. That is not a $5,000 repair. Ask anyone who's actually paid for one recently. That's a $10,000 to $12,000 replacement. You don't have it. Someone rear-ends you and your deductible is $1,000. Credit card, kid needs braces. You're financing orthodontics like it's a lease payment. The water heater doesn't die Sunday morning when a plumber could come Monday. It dies at 6 p.m. on a Friday. You're waiting until Monday with no hot water, running mental math the entire weekend. This is the daily reality of a household earning $160,000 trying to own a $500,000 home. Now imagine what it looks like for the family making $120,000 or $100,000. Or God forbid, the actual median income of $84,000. At median income, buying a $500,000 house is not tight. It is not a stretch. It is financial fantasy. It is mathematically impossible without either massive external help or accepting a level of risk that would make a professional gambler nervous. Think about it this way. What we've done here is create a system where being approved for something and being able to afford something are treated as the same thing. They are not even close to the same thing. The housing market doesn't care about these numbers. Sellers list at $500,000 because that's what comparable homes sold for. Banks approve buyers at 43% debt to income because technically the loan won't default on day one. Real estate agents encourage buyers to stretch because their commission is tied directly to the sale price. And here's what the amortization schedule tells you that nobody in that room will. In the first years of a 30-year mortgage, the overwhelming majority of your payment goes to interest. The bank gets paid first. Your equity builds at a crawl. You're in the house, paying maximum dollars, building minimum ownership. Nobody in that transaction makes money when you say no. Nobody has a financial incentive to tell you that you're about to financially drown yourself. The system is designed to get you into the house, not to make sure you can comfortably live in it. And once you sign those papers and move your furniture in, you are not in a comfortable situation. You're in quicksand. You cannot simply decide 6 months later that this was a mistake and walk away without destroying your credit score and losing your down payment entirely. So people stay. They stay in houses they cannot afford. They work jobs they hate because they cannot risk any income disruption. They watch their savings evaporate. They wonder why they feel permanently exhausted when they're supposedly living the American dream. Here's the harsh truth. For somewhere between 70 and 80% of American households, a $500,000 home is not affordable, not sustainably, not without accepting a level of financial fragility that would have been considered reckless one generation ago. This is not about personal failure. This is not about not working hard enough. Home prices have increased roughly 400% since 1990. Median household income, about 180% in the same period. The math doesn't balance. It cannot balance. It will not balance. And yet we keep pretending it does. We keep telling people that homeownership is essential for building wealth, which is technically true, but that conveniently skips the part where you have to financially survive the mortgage first. We keep perpetuating the myth that if you just budget better and hustle harder, you can make it happen. But you cannot budget your way out of a structural affordability crisis. You cannot side hustle your way into a down payment when rent is eating 40% of your income already. We've rebranded financial desperation as adulting. Oh, your house poor? Welcome to homeownership. Can't furnish 3 of your rooms? That's just part of the journey. Your entire social life evaporated because every dollar has a job? You're building equity. It's like society collectively agreed to normalize the misery and call it a rite of passage. Your parents bought a house at your age. Never mind that their house cost 3 times their annual income and yours costs 6 times yours. Your friends are buying houses. Never mind that you have absolutely no idea what their actual financial picture looks like behind that freshly painted front door. Society tells you renting is throwing money away. Never mind that being unable to genuinely afford your mortgage payment is also throwing money away, just with extra steps and significantly worse consequences when it unravels. So let me give you permission to do something genuinely radical. You can look at a $500,000 house, run the real numbers, and choose not to play this game. You can keep renting. You can invest the difference aggressively. You can look at a $350,000 house in a slightly different market, even if that means a longer commute or a smaller footprint. You can look at markets where $500,000 actually buys you something reasonable instead of a glorified apartment with a mortgage attached. You can acknowledge that the version of the American dream sold to you has been warped into something most people can no longer realistically reach. And that is not your fault, and not your failure. Because here's what actually builds wealth. It's not owning a house you can barely afford, it's having margin in your budget. It's investing consistently. It's not having to choose between fixing your roof and contributing to your retirement. It's sleeping through the night without running mortgage math in your head at 2 a.m. Real wealth is freedom, not equity you can't access because you're chained to the asset that's supposed to be making you wealthy. The financial industry has done a remarkable job convincing people that buying is always better than renting, that you should stretch as far as possible, that homes always appreciate and everything will work out. But they're selling you a product. The bank profits from your 30-year mortgage. The real estate agent profits from the sale price. The insurance company profits from your policy. Nobody in that equation makes money when you say, "This doesn't work for my actual life right now." And if you're sitting there feeling priced out, feeling like you're failing at some fundamental adult milestone, I need you to understand something clearly. You are not failing. The system is failing you. Home prices have outpaced wage growth so dramatically that what was normal and achievable for previous generations is now a luxury item. A $500,000 house is not a starter home. It is not affordable on a median income. It is not something worth financially drowning yourself in for granite countertops. Run your real numbers. Factor in every cost. Be honest about your income stability and what your actual take-home is, not your gross salary. And if the math doesn't work, walk away. There is no shame in saying this doesn't make sense for me right now. There is no trophy for buying a house that makes you miserable. The real win is making decisions based on math instead of social pressure, based on your actual financial situation instead of the life you wish you had. That's how you avoid becoming someone else's cautionary tale about the true cost of that $500,000 home. Actually, let me put it this way. I'm not telling you to give up on homeownership. I'm telling you to give up on the delusion that a $500,000 house is within reach just because a bank will hand you the paperwork. Those are two catastrophically different things. The bank's risk tolerance and your ability to actually live a full life are not the same calculation. Maybe in 5 years your income doubles. Maybe the market corrects and that same house is listed at $380,000. Maybe you relocate to a market where $500,000 buys something genuinely reasonable instead of a disappointment with a mortgage. But right now, today, with current prices and current incomes, this math is broken for most people. And pretending otherwise doesn't make you optimistic. It makes you a future statistic in a video about the foreclosure cycle. Stop looking at what you qualify for. Start looking at what you can genuinely afford without turning your life into a financial tightrope act. Find the number where you can pay the mortgage, handle the maintenance, cover emergencies, invest for retirement, and still occasionally remember what it feels like to not be stressed about money. For most people, that number is nowhere near $500,000. And that is completely fine. You are not less successful for being realistic. You are not failing at adulthood for refusing to financially drown yourself for a house the market says is normal. The housing market will keep pretending these prices make sense. Banks will keep approving loans that shouldn't exist. Real estate agents will keep telling you it's a great time to buy. But you don't have to participate in collective financial insanity just because everyone around you is. Sometimes the smartest move is recognizing when the boulder is rolling toward you, not cresting the hill under your own power. Sometimes the smartest move is stepping aside, building real financial momentum, and waiting for the moment when buying actually makes your life better instead of just making it look better from the outside. If this changed how you think about that $500,000 number, pass it along to someone who's about to sign papers they haven't fully run the math on yet.